This was the most historic wealth transfer in all of history. We're talking trillions of dollars from Main Street to Wall Street. And then Wall Street is reaching record highs by the end of 2020. They're using force, they're using coercion, they're using control, and usually opacity. We have all of history and time to show that that does not produce a better outcome than when we have something that is closer to that capitalism and to that free market. The important thing as small business owners is to engage first your customers. Small businesses really need to embrace the concept that collaboration is the new competition. To the extent that you can work together with other businesses, I don't think that small businesses always leverage their number one competitive advantage, which is that ability to really know and build a relationship with the customer.
Why is decentralization, fragmentation, small independent business owners, why is that important, Carol? Why wouldn't central planning and consolidation and more Amazons and Walmarts? It seems like some people say, well, that's efficiency of the marketplace, but we know that's not true. But maybe explain to our listeners why it's more important to back small business and why this direction of central planning is so bad for what we know here in America as free enterprise.
Yeah, so I think you glossed over a really important thing. You just kind of threw it out there. So I want to make sure that everybody heard what you said. This was the most historic wealth transfer in all of history. We're talking trillions of dollars from Main Street to Wall Street. So, this was a time when small businesses, and we know by June of 2020, it was 400,000 small businesses that were murdered by mandate. At the same time, millions of people were unemployed, millions of more small businesses struggling to survive. And then Wall Street is reaching record highs. By the end of 2020, it had been a record year for capital raising, incredible gains in the market. And so you had 7 tech companies that gained $3.4 trillion in value at the same time this was happening. So I want to make sure that point doesn't escape people. And that wasn't capitalism. That was the government not only closing down the competitors of the big companies, but pumping trillions of dollars of support from the Federal Reserve into the market that increased the market values of these companies. Did not do anything, by the way, for small businesses. In fact, it made it harder for them to compete because they didn't have the same capital, as well as in many cases their doors open, that the big guys did. So, with this, when you think about who makes the best decisions and the efficient allocation of resources, and this goes back to my economics training and resources, if you had the smartest people in the world with the best tools running our government, pick out whoever your favorite smartest people are. If you had those people handful of people making decisions, they still wouldn't make the same good decisions as millions, if not hundreds of millions of people transacting freely in the marketplace, without coercion, in a very transparent manner. That creates the most transparency and the most efficient allocation of resources. That's if we had the best people. Now, regardless of where you sit on this political spectrum, I think we could all agree we do not attract the best people. In fact, there are a lot of people who have absolutely no idea what's even going on. You could just listen, to anything from the interviews of the banks to the tech companies to go, these people are way out of their realm. So now we have not the best people, not even probably like the top half of the people making limited decisions on behalf of everyone. They're using force, they're using coercion, they're using control, and usually opacity. And so that is a recipe, and we have all of history and time to show that does not produce a better outcome than when we have something that is closer to that capitalism and to that free market. So if you don't want the central power, if you don't want there to just be an Amazon and a Facebook and a handful of other choices, the way that you push back against that is you don't allow the power that grants special favors to these handful of companies. You diversify it so that no one entity has that outside power, but you also, as a consumer, you have more choice in terms of products, services, where you want to work. You get more innovation, and it produces better outcomes for everyone. I mean, we're at a situation now, crazy statistic, and I'm waiting for Amazon to report to update this, but as of July of last year, 1 in every 153 workers in America worked for Amazon.
Wow.
That is crazy, and it's a trajectory that is continuing. They're continuing to amass more space, go after more workers, and they certainly have the financial wherewithal to be able to do so. And so we're getting to that point where they're locking other people out of the market, locking out the ability to pursue economic freedom, locking out the ability to create wealth independently, and all those other things that I've talked about.
The stats for small business in general, Carol, we know that many fail just because that's the market, and yet this country, people want to own assets, businesses, because that's how we create wealth. So there's always the desire, the intention in America, because this is a great place to come. We have people that immigrate from other countries with nothing on their back, and they have the opportunity here to rise up. It's getting much more difficult because of what we're talking about, this war that we've seen. So how do we, as small business entrepreneurs, continue to try to thrive, or at least even stay alive in an environment where big money, Wall Street, big money, corporatism, cronyism is driving the consolidation and creating more regulation, higher cost of compliance, getting licensed. I mean, everything down to, as you mentioned, pet groomers and hairstylists. Everybody has to be licensed today. I'm thinking back to the 2008 Great Recession. I've got a lot of friends in real estate, and there were many independent mortgage brokers back then. Where have they all gone now? Right? So the money and the politics is so strong. Where do you see this going? I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, do you have a theory? Does something break at some point? Is there a reset of some kind?
So I always hate to try to predict the future because there are new variables that are introduced every day. But what I will say is there are a few things that need to happen. The important thing as small business owners is to engage first your customers, to let them know how important it is for you to continue to do business, see if they can help spread the word, get them to buy more frequently. I don't think that small businesses always leverage their number one competitive advantage, which is that ability to really know and build a relationship with the customer in a way that a bigger company never can. So really focus on that and fortify your relationships to make yourself an essential and important part of your customer's life. And then I think that small businesses really need to embrace the concept that collaboration is the new competition. You obviously are concerned about your own business, but you should be concerned about other small businesses. So to the extent that you can work together with other businesses, and it doesn't even have to be in the same industry, just have the same target customers, where you can find ways to add value and provide referrals to like-minded businesses. That is a huge thing. And when you shop with your own dollars, make the effort to shop locally. I mean, that's one of the things I did with this book. As I said, look, you can go to Amazon. This is capitalism. You can do whatever you want, but you can buy it from a local small business retailer. And if yours has gone out of business in your local community, go to bookshop.org and they will fulfill this book. And by the way, a whole slew of others from local small business resellers. So every time you're doing things, I mean, just my own behaviors change so much, even with, these kind of intermediaries that deliver food. We try to go to the restaurant and pick up so that they're not getting that 30+% hit from these intermediary delivery services. Like, really think about how you're spending your money, because that is a huge, huge impact for small business. But on the political spectrum, it definitely starts locally. So to the extent you can, get involved politically, locally. And I know that a lot of small business owners don't want to be vocal about it. You can still make phone calls behind the scenes. You can still, find ways to quietly support great folks, because frankly, a lot of the regulation piece that falls upon small business actually happens at the local and state level, not at the national level. I know, being in the quote unquote very business friendly state of Illinois, we have some of the most ridiculous things that we have to contend with. And on their website, they brag about the fact that they have all these different, like the most out of any state, places that you can go and get insurance for your employees, workers' comp insurance. And I'm like, that's not a good thing to be bragging about.
No.
And so, like, in my business, my employees work from home on the computer, and I have to spend thousands of dollars that could be going to them or could be going to other aspects of my business to keep them insured, because that's a crony activity that doesn't really benefit things. So I think that's important. And then also just to be aware at the national level that the more power that gets consolidated in Washington, D.C., and it's something that's, there's been a very heavy push for lately, the worse off it's going to be for small business. And we've seen it. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with the Great Recession, financial crisis, even something like the Dodd-Frank rules that they put in place that were meant to be punishment for these big banks that took on too much risk and caused this financial crisis. Well, they got not only a taxpayer bailout, but they crafted legislation that basically destroyed small business lenders. And then what happens when there aren't as many small business lenders? Do you think the big banks want to lend to small businesses? No, it's not a meaningful part of their business. So small business lending fell off a cliff, and then it makes small businesses less competitive. So you really need to think through the implications. And if you're not sure, just run them by people who are, talking about them all the time. But usually, I haven't heard of any legislation that has been put out that was touted to help the little guy that actually didn't end up being anti-competitive and end up helping the big guy.
If you enjoyed watching or learning from this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more content. If you have a question about any of my content or this specific video, just please leave a comment down below. And as always, stay focused on your freedom. I'll see you next time.